I've been wanting to tell this story for some time. When I was 10 years old and in the 5th grade, we moved from our big white house with half an acre and an orchard to a smaller house about 5 blocks away. I didn't mind because the best thing was we moved 2 doors away from Kathy. Kathy and I had been buddies for a few years. We were seatmates on the school bus from our town to the Catholic school with the terrifying nuns in Phillipsburg, New Jersey that we attended. Now on the bus, Kathy and I would do skits based on kids' TV shows. I had a sense of drama. Kathy had a keen ear for comedy. And when Sister McKaylee in my 6th grade class made me so nervous that I got sick every day on the bus, the driver had paper bags for me, and he moved us to the front seat, and Kathy stuck with me. And as we approached the school and I barfed into the bag, Kathy put her hand on my shoulder and kept it there. So while I was sorry to leave our big house and the yard that was half an orchard, I was thrilled to be close to Kathy, and we had woods and fields and farms all around us. We too led the gang of girls in our street into what I consider magnificent alternate realities. We raced our bikes through the development and built snowball forts and battled the boys and loved to play with our dogs. But the best thing, summers were centered on my patio with its big picnic table. And that table served as ship, castle, fort. We staged a production of Mary Poppins. We'd seen the movie like 3 times that year. We staged a production of Mary Poppins right on our terrace, and Kathy was Dick Van Dyke. I played Mary. And when it was time for me to fly, I just climbed up on the picnic table and put up my umbrella. Our mothers loved it. Behind our houses, a huge field and the woods. That wood served as forest, African jungle, alien planet, dying continent, and anything else we decided it would be. One of our epic creations was what I guess would be called Hammurabi. I just learned about King Hammurabi in history class. So when our ship, our picnic table, foundered and needed repairs, and the crew needed food, well, we took a canoe and paddled to this uncharted island or continent or whatever, we weren't sure. We just knew it wasn't on the map. We paddled through the field, first my yard, then the field, and we reached land, that is the woods. We hid our canoe when we started to go through the woods. It was thick in the center, but thinned out on the sides. And we made our way to one side where there was a dried creek bed where we made our camp. Some of us, including Kathy, were captured by the tribe that was there, and they were going to be the food for a tribal dinner. So the rest of us had to rescue them, and we did. We rushed through the woods and with our pretend rifles and swords. When the earth shook and the volcano started spurting hot lava, we broke Kathy and the others out of prison, and we fought the tribe back, and we raced through the woods, and the lava started pouring down, and the earth was shaking, and we swung off tree branches and battled, and finally we made our way to the canoe. Our foes were getting occupied with the island's lava, of course, and its fate, so we were able to push off the canoe, laden with foodstuffs, I forget how we got those, and we quickly paddled back to our ship. And I remember standing on our picnic table and saying very dramatically, "And so the land of Hammurabi sank slowly into the sea, never to be found again." Except the next time we played it, of course. It was great fun. We kept making changes to it. Summer twilights brought hide-and-seek games with the whole neighborhood, and then our gang always ended up on Susie Conway's swing set. Susie lived in a house in between Kathy's and mine. We had a whole repertoire of songs we sang every night. Never got tired of it. We always started with Poor Nanny Goat, which Kathy taught us, and if you don't know it, I'll teach it to you later. Then we'd launch into the Mary Poppins songs, the whole soundtrack, always ending with Let's Go Fly a Kite up to the highest height and swinging along. And the stars came out. We could see stars then and there, and we swung right up to them. It all sounds so idyllic, but there were dark spots. There were times when Kathy refused to join us. She'd sit in her yard with her dog and just refuse to be coaxed to play. Her typical behavior was fun, wit, and energy, but there were these days that confused me. And although she was always at my house, I rarely went to hers. I remember that Kathy got beaten every once in a while, and I would hear her screaming, and I had no idea what to do. When she was with us, she was strong. She could pull herself up on tree branches. She jumped from places I wouldn't dare to. She could run faster. She was fearless. And she was funny and brave. And hearing her screaming made me feel so helpless. And my parents said it was their business. Other people's families are mysteries. Kathy stayed over at my house a lot. And we made up skits and pantomimes and had a great time and didn't mention the bad stuff. When the Beatles became a thing, we became the Beatles. Kathy was John, I was Paul, other girls were George and Ringo. We strummed badminton rackets and lip-synced and, I'm sorry to say, ran from the shrieking girls after our concerts. Then just as 7th grade started, now Kathy was a year behind me because of some silly age thing that schools put up. Kathy and her family moved to the next township, and I was devastated. I was beginning to feel that we were growing out of our childhood, though. We both transferred to different public schools, no more bus time, and to make things worse, when I wandered into the woods, men were putting yellow tape on trees. I was right to be feeling dread. Soon, big machines mowed all the trees down, the whole woods, and the town built another school there. Hammurabi was lost. And I entered a gaggle of girls who cared about hairstyles, movie stars, nylon stockings, and gossip. It was a huge wrench. It took some time for me to adjust. Not that I wanted to imagine. But I made friends. I biked to see Kathy, too, and we were different people. She'd gotten a drum set. All she wanted to do was play the drums, so I was left out. I biked home. I missed her. A few years later, some bright person thought that if you put 3 times as many kids in a classroom or a school, you'd get a better education. They regionalized everything. I hated it, except for one thing. I was coming out of a newspaper club meeting when I happened to look out the window, and there was Kathy crossing the lawn. I opened the window, yelled her name, she waved. I flew down the steps, and we hugged each other, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said she played the drums for a girl group she was in. They were going to play on Radio WABC's Big Break with Cousin Brucey. And well, thank you very much. That was my news story. So I got Kathy to get the group together for a picture and interview, and that story made me editor of the school paper. We were both busy, and we waited for each other in the halls. Kathy wasn't smiling much. I hardly saw her, although we were a few months apart in age. We never had the same classes. She didn't come to dances, not that I blamed her. I thought they were boring and charmless, but I went. After 9th grade, I moved up to a new building, the regional high school, and we lost track of each other again. But the next summer, I had a job offer. One of our English teachers and her husband had a small resort in the Poconos, right near Mount Airy Lodge. And they needed help to clean from the winter and work there for the summer. And would I like to do that? And did I know anyone who would like to help? Well, I did. I called Kathy, and while she couldn't do the weekends, she could do the summer. We were going to be back in business. Now, Lazy Rock Lodge is gone now. It was a little small place. It was a little motel unit and a few cabins. But it was a great place for summer job, and it was small, charming. We made friends with other guests and had rummy tournaments with them in the evening. For Kathy and me, we fell right into our old patterns of me being straight man to her fool. She was chambermaid, I was the relief girl, one day waitress, one day kitchen work, one day something else. And as soon as we had done our work, we played. We were 10 again, running into the woods, exploring, pretending, discovering. Were we too old for this? We didn't care. And we did discover things. We saved a wounded bird. We found an abandoned fishing pole. We found a box of dog treats and a little abandoned house that we broke into. Nothing to take, we just broke into it. So we mostly loved going to the big creek along with the lifeguard and the kitchen boy, and we would sail down the rapids. We had to climb over some high mud cliff-like structures to get there, and clamber up and jump down, and Kathy was always getting my arm to make sure I landed safely. We shared a small cabin. We started our funny pantomimes again, and lying in our double bed and joking and holding hands. Sometimes she would go very quiet, but it didn't last long. Didn't matter. Most evenings she'd bring out her guitar. We'd start a sing-along with the guests and play charades with them. But as the days passed, Kathy seemed to grow quiet and quieter, sometimes a little crabby if I asked if anything was wrong. Then she'd perk up and be her clowny self. One night, Mount Airy had a dance for the help, and we were invited. We didn't much want to go, a lot of strange kids and stuff, but our bosses encouraged us, and so we went. We cut through the woods, which was magical in twilight, reminding us of our old woods. About halfway through, we heard vicious, snarling dogs, barking and coming closer to us. Kathy grabbed my hand. "Don't run," she said. I knew she was right. She always knew stuff like that. We kept a steady rhythm as the snarling dogs got closer. Then someone yelled, "We got him, sorry." And safely, we got to Mount Airy. The dance floor was a wood platform a few steps up from the ground. We paid our quarters. Kathy went one way, I went another. And at intermission, a boy went to buy me a drink, and I looked around, but I didn't see her. I had a funny feeling, and I walked around the floor, still didn't see her. I went down the steps, still no Kathy. But then I saw her sitting on a bench near the road. And I sat down and asked, "What's wrong?" And she didn't say anything. And I put my hand on her shoulder. And she said, "Mary, I'm a boy." And I said, and I don't know how I said it except that it suddenly seemed right and natural. I said, "I know." And of course I knew. It was something that had always been there, no one said anything about. You know something, it didn't matter except that now it did. And Kathy said, "When I was born, I could have been a boy or a girl. Mom wanted a girl. Maybe I'm both, but I'm a boy. I just am." I'm not sure I thoroughly understood, except that I understood. I kept my hand on her shoulder, and we walked quietly back through the woods. You'd think that we would have acted differently with each other. No, we even joked about the dance. But we were quiet afterwards in our cabin, and in bed, he cried. And we held hands, and I held on to Kathy. I started calling him Cat. He was quieter, and we didn't play that much, but we did sing on the porch while he played the guitar and still joked with the cook and the guests. And little by little, we started joking and playing again, going into the woods. Cat was Cat. A few weeks later, he left Lazy Rock. His father was transferred to Georgia. It might as well have been Georgia in the Soviet Union. After the station wagon was packed, we had to say goodbye, and we both had this silly grin. And his mother said, "You girls say goodbye now." And we stuck out our hands, shook them, and I said, "Well, goodbye." Cat got into the car. It pulled away. I waved. Cat waved. I never saw him again. We moved. There was college. And some years later, I heard that Cat had gone through with surgery and had changed his name to Chris, had been a drummer in a band. I longed to find him, but it's been impossible. He has a common name, and if I find him, I'm not sure he'll want anyone from his prior life to come back. But I think of him so often, especially lately, hearing a stronger prejudice toward gay and trans people. It's Chris I think of. Not so long ago, maybe because I live in this city, gays and trans people were so accepted. And they were on TV shows, sitcoms. I worked and sang and acted in plays with them and met them for drinks, and who the heck cares? What care you take of your body? Isn't your body and soul yours? Our world, it seems, so accepting of all that and women's rights and all not so long ago, or maybe I'm a fool, but suddenly it seems we've turned a corner again. It's not who you say you are, it's what they say you must be. A vast majority of bills last year specifically targeted transgender people in an attempt to limit school sports, school restrooms, and locker rooms, ban access to age-appropriate, gender-affirming medical care, and remove books and references to LGBTQ+ identities and experiences from school curricula, and hate crimes and discrimination laws. And why? I don't understand. What's the threat? And I hear all this and I think of Chris and how we must feel, and I wonder what we are and what we are becoming and who we're hurting. Several Native American tribes throughout their history have recognized degrees of sexuality among their peoples. Why can't we? As a child, Chris knew who he was. For the young years, maybe it didn't matter, but then it did. Of course it did. The woods in the field where we played are completely gone, built up with a school and homes. The field's gone, it's all crowded in now with houses. Oh, the authorities knew better what to do with it, I guess. But maybe somehow, and I hope that the kids there can sense the magic of those woods that inspired our play, our friendship, and our survival through all that lava, finding our canoe, paddling back to safety on our picnic table ship, and swinging high and flying up our kite, up where the air is clear and you could see the stars. Into the woods, but mind the past. Into the woods, but mind the future. The chances look small, the choices look grim, but everything you learn there will keep when you return there. The light is getting dimmer. I think I see a glimmer. Into the woods to find there's hope of getting through the journey. Amen.